wrestling fans, and welcome back to another edition of NBC's 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall, but on today's edition, I'm talking to Dana Luna. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh my God, I'm doing great. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. I get to talk to you. No complaints, no complaints. And by the way, love the hair. If I actually had
Thank you.
more,
I think you'd rock it.
but I think the beard. Why not the beard?
Oh, yeah, that's a great
A
idea,
little
actually.
pink, a little green.
Yeah.
It could happen. It could happen. But most recent events with you, though, I guess it's not the happiest moments. You recently released by the WWE underneath the NXT UK brand. Now, were you released, or were you? These are rumors online. Were you asked to relocate, and you said no, I don't want to do that?
No, I was released.
Okay.
I don't want to set any of those rumors alight. No, I was released. Under like very nice terms. You know, I wasn't fired. It was just a case of what they're doing at the moment doesn't fit what I'm doing at the moment, kind of thing. And obviously, like, I was in good company, so I can't be too upset. You know, I still have all my friends.
Of course, of course. I guess the class of the most recent release people are still all good people. So, but yet with NXT Europe opening up, was what was the description to you on what NXT UK was going to be? Were you blindsided by this release?
I don't know if blindsided is the word. It's just, I guess, NXT Europe is planning to be such a bigger thing than NXT UK ever was. So to do that, they have to take these big steps, and I understand that, you know. And if down the line they're like, "Oh, we want Dani Luna in NXT Europe," then great news.
Right.
But until then, I'm just me.
It's just shocking to me to think if they're going to expand when you keep the people who you already have, so you can continue building off of that versus just being like starting from scratch. Because obviously NXT UK, when it first started, had promotion all about it, and then out of nowhere, NXT UK, I think, not even before the pandemic, it just fell off. Like they didn't promote it anymore. Did you feel like that when you were sitting in the company of your friends and family, going, "We're doing great work, but why aren't we having commercials more often?"
I don't know. It's hard. I don't know if it was necessarily WWE's fault, or obviously we had the whole speaking out movement over here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know if that obviously affected it a little bit too. So I don't know if there was just a period, especially during the pandemic, where wrestling was kind of just a touchy subject, and I feel like sometimes we just got the bad end of that. But I do think, completely unbiasedly, that we had some of the best pro wrestling in that ring, you know, and it's a shame that more people didn't get to see it, because I watched some of the best matches I've ever seen, you know. But I don't think so. I think it was just a case of wrong place, wrong time.
Interesting, because again, the rumors online. William Regal recently came out and said this was not true, but he's working for another company, so I'm not sure what he's saying, what isn't saying. He said rumors online have been circulating since NXT UK started that brand was made to kind of like cripple the UK underground independent wrestling. Was that ever indicated to you that we're here to like ruin everybody else's companies?
I don't think so, not at all. Like, we were NXT UK was made from those companies, you know,
Right.
from
Yeah.
your Progresses and your ICWs and places like that. And they always kept good relationships with those places, and we were always allowed to still work independence. The only thing they really were keen on was us having like proper medics and stuff at those shows, which I think is important either way. Like, I don't think that's WWE trying to stop anyone wrestling. I think that's them just trying to keep everyone safe.
Right.
Um, so I don't think so at all. You know, we had all the freedom in the world still, which is more than anyone else that worked in WWE, you know, being
Yeah.
able to do both.
That's good to hear, because again, there was this rumor, again, no proof, that people thought that NXT UK was made to just hurt other UK federations and wrestling companies. I don't know, to put like their mark on it, like an NBC with NXT UK was going to be the embassy of that area. But I'm glad you put that to bed, because again, William Regal said the same thing. I'm glad you said it too, because the rumor has to die somewhere,
Yeah,
and I guess it's going to die here. I hope. I hope.
I'll make it.
Yes, make it happen, please. But at what point did you know NXT UK was going to close?
It was pretty quick turnaround, to be honest. But you the same, you hear all these rumors, we hear them all too.
Right.
And it's even more unsettling when you work there, you know. So it was just a case of it happened, and we were all understandably upset, but like you said, it didn't necessarily have the biggest viewership in the world. So from a business perspective, you can't really be like, oh, that's unfair. You know, if it's not making the money, I can't be like, oh, you have to keep me because I want to work in WWE. It's not up to me. You know, it's a lot bigger than just a slot.
Right. I guess as a show, again, I think in the beginning when they had the 2-day tournament to crown the first ever UK men's championship belt, that right there was amazing. And then it just disappeared for like 8 months. Then it came back, and then we actually had weekly episodes, and that was great to see with crowds. But the pandemic showed up. So during the pandemic, were you still getting paid while not performing on TV? Because they had the best of NXT UK's airing on the network and Peacock while that was going on.
Oh yeah, we were 100% looked after throughout the whole pandemic, which I was very thankful for. You know, it's more than most people got, like more job security than anyone else had. And we were still trying to kind of make it work. I think we ended up being like 4 or 5 months, and then we started doing the no crowds tapings. But even during those 4 or 5 months, they still kept in contact with us. We do like Zoom classes where we'd watch wrestling with the coaches and stuff. So they tried their best, and yeah, we were completely looked after the whole time.
That's awesome to hear. Again, because there's no indication anywhere that is what's happening or not happening. It's not like the company shows up in a quarterly earnings call and say, by the way, we're still paying our employees. It'd be awkward just to say because you'd hope they are.
Yeah.
But at least again, another footnote you've put down that yes, you were being paid. NXT UK wrestlers were taken care of during the pandemic. And what was that like, sitting at home, hungry to perform, but yet you have to be kind of locked in your house?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely hard. I guess it was made better by the fact that everyone felt like that. We were all just kind of talking to each other like, oh, do you think it's going to be soon? And then, you know, the vaccine comes out and you're like, oh, maybe it's now, maybe we can go back. And they eventually did work out a very good system where, you know, they were able to send us down to London, but we'd stay in our little bubbles and we could still make TV. But even that as a whole, getting used to wrestling in front of no one's very weird as well. So it's a big adjustment, I think. And it still doesn't feel completely back to normal. And I don't think we should expect it to just yet, but I am looking forward that things seem to start to be going in the right direction.
Right, because where you are and where I am, you know, different parts of the world, different set of rules based on locations, based on COVID positives. So obviously the rules where you are a little different from what was going on here in America, because they suddenly the W hunkered down in Florida, and they had their own set of rules. So they were like, okay, we'll be essential employees. And yet where you were, I guess that rule wasn't applied as a performer.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like a government thing, like the laws were written out slightly differently, that they couldn't do the same kind of loophole also to get that across. But I think we still managed to get through slightly earlier than say like the independents, because we were able to have, you know, testing and quarantining and stuff like that. But we were a little later than America, which was really frustrating to watch because we're like, oh, but we can make good TV too. Like if you just give us a room with no one in it. But it's a big thing to ask, you know, and you don't know if it's going to work. You don't know if anyone wants to watch wrestling without a crowd.
Well, yeah, I was in the Thunderdome a couple of times as they call you up, put you in a Zoom call, and then they're like, "Here comes Randy Orton. I need you to boo," and you're sitting there in your basement in your living room, boo, and then eventually you would see yourself again, but while you're not in Zoom, like, are you recording these? So I have a feeling, you know, the same thing might have happened with NXT UK if it started off right off the bat inside of a Thunderdome. But again, that Thunderdome was pricey. Like, was there ever talk of creating a NXT UK Thunderdome so you could continue performing in front of, you know, people?
I don't think so, because we shot TV out of BT Sports Studios.
Yes.
So it wasn't just us that were using it. They use it for like the football talk shows and stuff as well. So it wasn't really something they could kind of wheel in, I suppose. It would have to be built into the structure. and because we didn't own that, whereas I guess in the PC it's just the PC in America, so they could put whatever they wanted in it.
Right.
But no, we didn't get to. It would have been cool, but I do think it felt more NXT UK. It felt very British to just be a ring in a big room and everyone wrestling around in it, you know?
Yeah, of course. Though you did mention, BT Sports was involved, yet so the location that the ring is in for that, are they just building it and breaking it down, building it and breaking it down because that room is also used for studios for other talk shows? Or are you in a different studio and there's a different studio next to you with something else going on?
No, yeah, so they'd take it down after each set of tapings and then put it back up the next time, yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh no, I'm glad I didn't have to do it, but the refs are good people.
No kidding. Being like, oh, cool, that was really complicated. Now break it down. Like,
Yeah.
oh God, this is awful. So recently, this past week, the NXT UK did air its last official episode. They crowned the UK champion Tyler Bates on the champion once more. But yet on NXT, I'll call it, I guess, America TV, they already had him as champion. So it was very awkward to see that they didn't really care about NXT UK continuity versus NXT on USA. But how does that make you feel? You were part of this organization. It no longer exists, and it's going to be transformed to something else. And 20 years from now, people are doing podcasts called like NXT UK 20 years ago, and then they'll find you and they'll interview you just like this.
Yeah. No, it is sad. I think there was definitely more legs in it. But like you said, if things aren't going the way they planned, they probably had this big plan for it. And if it didn't quite work out that way for whatever reason, maybe it would have been more difficult to try and raise it to that standard again. But I think it was something I'm very proud to have been a part of, being someone that was just like a little independent wrestler. And then all of a sudden you are working for the WWE, whether it's NXT UK or not, like I worked for the WWE,
Right.
So I take no shame in that. And I think the programs we created were really, really good. And as much as the continuity thing was a bit of a shame, I am glad they were still able to air all the episodes, So you have day one of NXT UK to the very last day, and you can watch the whole thing, and that'll always be there, whether the show's still active or not.
That's true too. And then like NXT UK, I believe it was your 5th match in, you took on the champion, Kaylee Ray. So again, 5 episodes of your career in that, you're already fighting such a huge star. She's changed her name now, unfortunately. Hopefully she gets her name back. But Kaylee Ray, and you had a freaking amazing matchup. So what was it like? You show up, you said you're an independent wrestler. Now you work for the WWE, and they're putting you in spots like that kind of right away to maybe either test you or they have trust in you to put on a good match with the champion.
Yeah, I mean, it was terrifying. Like, don't get me wrong. But I think my journey to getting signed took a little while because they had this all women's tryout that they invited me to, but I initially wasn't really meant to be in it. I was like the understudy. They were like, oh, we'll use you if someone else drops out. And then a few days later, I just got the invitation, and I was like, okay, I'll just go. And then that ended up going really well. So they brought me back a few times. I did like Download Festival and stuff. Just doing more kind of like enhancement things. And then I eventually got my contract. And then it was literally my first contracted match was the match before and then the match with Kaylee. And I was kind of like, are you sure? I've just signed this. But no, it was great. I don't know if it was a test. It didn't feel like one. It just felt like, you've got a job now, so show us why you've got a job. And I felt more than confident in my ability to do that. And she's the best, and she's so helpful, and she completely understood how scared I'd be. So it was just a lovely environment, really. And it was luckily right before COVID, so I got to do it in front of a crowd as well, which is lovely.
Right. I was gonna say that would have been pretty awful to have like it's like, what was your favorite match? Well, it was in front of a bunch of monitors.
Yeah, right.
The monitors were going crazy that day. They were chanting my name, I think. I couldn't really hear them. That's interesting. Now, for NXT UK, everyone understands that Triple H, NXT, we'll go again, US, and Shawn Michaels kind of involved with that. Who is in charge of NXT UK, or at the time when you were there? Who? Like who was putting forth the hey, this is the storyline we're doing, this is the matches we're booking, this is where we're going? Who was that person?
So it was still Shawn Michaels, yeah.
Okay.
So any kind of like ideas we had, we'd go to him and he'd green light or red light everything, which is very cool. You know, like another thing that can't be taken away is that I was on random Zoom calls with Shawn Michaels, you know. So yeah, he was great. He was really passionate about it. And I do think that it was like his little baby. And I almost for his sake, it's sad it's gone too, because I do think he really cared about it.
Right. Again, I think he's not obviously making financial decisions. He's probably fighting as much as he can. But again, you brought up, and in business, you're trying to make money, and you can have passion all day long. But I guess if it's not making money, but like, do you think it just was someone forgot, like not forgot, but someone didn't put forth like, oh, this thing's already running on its own, it's fine, it doesn't need any help? But like, I loved NXT UK, and then it just felt like suddenly someone forgot about it. It's like you have 3 kids, and you pick 2 of them up from school, you leave the third one, and you're just driving home, da 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 da, and you're like, wait a minute, oh my god, I have 3 kids. I should probably take care of that kid. That's what it felt like. It felt like NXT UK was the kid that kept getting forgotten about, but having anytime the matches were incredible, suddenly it'd be like, oh, did you know NXT UK was putting on great
Yeah.
matches? It's like, yes, weekly. So,
Yeah, it did. It felt kind of like a secret.
yeah.
And we all felt like, oh, but we're in on the secret, so it's
Yeah.
okay. And I do wish that it was a bit more globally cared about, but I think it's very British wrestling that it felt like a secret. I think we all felt like, oh well, it made it feel easier because it did just feel like what we were doing before. You almost didn't have the scariness of, you know, being in the Thunderdome. It was just you and your friends wrestling like you were in a bingo hall a few years ago, you know.
Of course.
Um, and I think as long as it stays on the network, I think the appreciation for those matches will always be there. And bottom line, that's kind of all I care about. You know, they created great wrestling, and I love great wrestling, so that's all that really matters.
So then what's next for you? Because again, we mentioned, you were released from NXT UK, your WWE contract's over. NXT Europe could open, and we don't know when. Maybe you could come back, maybe you won't. We don't know. What's next for you?
Well, I'm currently still injured, so I've got a few months left. I tore my ACL about a year ago. So step 1 is getting cleared, and then step 2 is wrestling absolutely everywhere that will have me. Between COVID happening and then getting hurt, I think I wrestled about 8 matches in 2 years, and like my creative cup is overflowing. You know, I need somewhere to put all that energy. So yeah, anywhere that will have me. I'd love to go to Japan. I'd love to be a part of the scene here in the UK that has kind of rebuilt itself since a lot of us had to, you know, leave and not work as much. So yeah, anywhere that will have me, I'd love to make a mark again.
I was gonna say, if I don't ask the question, someone will write to me on Twitter and say, "Why don't you ask it?" AEW, Impact Wrestling, NWA, huge opportunities there for you as well. Once you're back up and running, has anyone spoken to you about this?
No, I've been very much just kind of focusing on getting better. I don't want to make promises to anyone that I can't necessarily keep. But obviously, I'd love to be any of those places. I've never even wrestled outside of the UK, you know, whether it be Europe, whether it be America. Like, I'd love to tick all those boxes. I got signed so young that there was so much stuff that I thought maybe I wouldn't get to do if I just stayed in WWE forever. So I'm just kind of seeing it as a blessing in disguise that now I have a chance to do all that stuff that I didn't get a chance to do before.
I've talked to people before too who are very young, just like yourself, and it's like you achieved your dream so young. So I think sometimes people don't realize that when you achieve your dream so young, maybe mentally you're thinking, what can I do next? Because you were a paid professional wrestler working for the WWE. Obviously, when you get into wrestling, that's kind of like the dream, I imagine, for everyone. It's not like I just want to work in high schools forever. Like, no, you obviously want to go off and do something. So, mentally, how are you doing? Because again, you achieved your dream. It's they not fired you, laid you off, and now what's next is you're injured right now, so you can't even do what your talents are for. So how are you feeling?
I'm fine. Like, I've been injured for so long, you kind of get used to it. So, like, if you'd have asked me 12 months ago, I'd have been quite upset. But,
Yeah.
you know, you come to terms with it. You take it as a chance to learn and a chance to get better at the non-wrestling things that are involved in it, you know. But I'm just super excited. I think there's so much more to do, you know. I was only in WWE for 3 years. That's definitely not enough wrestling for me to be like, oh yeah, tick my box, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's still so much more for me to do wherever that end up being. I just want to be a pro wrestler.
Man, that's a damn good answer. That's a damn good answer. Again, unfortunately, you were released. I guess most likely it's because of NXT Europe opening, and they just don't know what to do. Like, well, because the thing is, you see some of the talent who is sticking around NXT UK who've come on to NXT Worlds Collide as me and you. This airs Worlds Collide has already happened, so yet
Right.
they're having NXT UK and NXT USA taking on each other. So I guess again, I think the reason, at least how I'm looking at this, is they couldn't keep everyone on payroll when they have no idea what they're doing with NXT Europe. I'm assuming.
You're assuming as much as me.
Yeah. Well, is that, it's like we kind of said it a little bit, but is that the real reason that they told you, like, hey, we just don't have anything for you right now?
I don't really know. All I know is that obviously the people that have gone over to the US from here are kind of being used to help close that chapter of NXT UK, you know. They're the best that we've got to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So we're using them to, so it's not just, oh, that was the last episode, bye. You know, it has a bit more closure, which I think is nice. It shows a bit more respect, I think. And hopefully they all do great, you know, like Blair Davenport's fantastic. I hope she does great. I'm excited to see whoever pops up there. I think it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and I'm just so happy that we can still go on Peacock and go back and watch all your matches in NXT UK, because it's there as long as it's up. You know, as long as it's up there on Peacock or the network or whatever happens in the future, 20 years from now, we can still go back. And hey, if I can go back and watch old Hacksaw Jim Duggan matches, I should be able to go back and watch your matches, right?
Absolutely.
And I love Hacksaw Jim Duggan. But, you know, there's a difference between you and him. But again, thank you so much for being here on NBC's 10 Count. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, because I think, again, people want to know exactly what the heck happened towards the end. And obviously, you know, you got to share your story. And I think people are going to be inspired by your story, because you said you wanted to be a professional wrestler. You became a professional wrestler. You got paid by the WWE. You got to work for the WWE. Right. What can you ask for more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
now man. I just keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on, folks. Well, thanks for being here, Dani Luna, on another episode of NBC's 10 Count. I've been Steve Fall. We had a great time talking, and we'll see you next time. Bye.